Not the Hitman. Not the Hitman. Oh no. You know, Bret Hart, he famously blames Bill Goldberg for everything. Famously. And he always blamed Bret Hart, or Bret Hart rather blamed Goldberg for getting the kick in the head ended my career, you stinking hyena. But that's been exposed because Bret Hart contradicted himself in interviews. See, the longer you let Bret Hart speak, which he's gonna always do, he contradicts a lot of his complaints. That's a video for another day. Hit the like button. But this video is a video I did some time ago where I exposed how Bret Hart cried and cried and cried and will still cry about Goldberg kicking him in the head ended his career, which is not true because he had many matches later on. And in fact, a match he had with Terry Funk in 2000 really ended his career. But few people know that because a lot of Bret Hart marks, they think Bret Hart is like a Christ-like character who's always right. The idolatry never ends. Hit the like button. XDN Sports, XDN wins on the Cash App if you want to support the channel or you have a video request. Now, if I look up here this summary, thanks to the internet, the Goldberg concussion versus the Terry Funk match, which had a greater effect on Bret Hart's health and career. Goldberg suffered a severe concussion during his match Bret Hart suffered a severe concussion during his match with Goldberg at Starrcade 99. Bret Hart noted in his book that he sustained blows, Janelle Grant blows, earlier in the match, including hitting his head on the concrete and the infamous thrust kick. Rather than stopping, Bret Hart kept going like Janelle Grant and Paige on that one tape. Man, Paige. Maybe Paige might be the greatest athlete in wrestling history. Did you see what she was doing on that tape? My God, you forget Bret Hart Iron Man match. Paige had a 2-on-1 handicap Iron Man match. Good Lord, can you imagine the smell of the belt they were doing it on? I mean, if you're that is so wrestling. You're gonna do it on a title belt. Oh. Rather than stopping, that's what Paige said. Hart kept wrestling. That's what Paige did for WCW over the following couple of weeks without proper healing time. Now, the Terry Funk match is really what ended his career. Shortly after Starrcade, Bret Hart wrestled a hardcore match against Terry Funk on WCW Thunder. We all remember this. Because Thunder was doing such a great rating at the time. During this brawl, Bret Hart took unprotected weapon shots to the dome, the cranium, including being hit with a trash can. Many wrestling observers, Dave Meltzer, and fans argue that continuing to take high impact bumps and blows to an already concussed head was the final blows that left permanent damage far beyond the kick alone, which is true. And this video you're going to watch, the rest of it, is further exposing and examining this because Bret the Hitman Hart, the most bitter man, forget the Hitman, it's the bitter man. Bret the bitter man Hart, he exposes himself. With that said, check out the rest of this. XDN Wrestling. Bret Hart, you people, in the last month and a half, more than any other topic, I've got the most response, comments, likes, shares, passionate essays in the comments. Whenever I talk about Bret Hart, you people are very passionate, one way or another, about the Hitman. Now, Bret Hart, it has always been widely considered, seen, heard, and told that his career ended because Goldberg kicked him in the head. That incident likely and may have been what led him to retirement. But many people also forget that Bret Hart did go on after Starrcade 99. They did the NWO 2000 fiasco with him and Hall and Nash and Jeff Jarrett and I think Scott Steiner. And Bret Hart loves to talk about how smart he was and wise he was and how how mindful of a worker he was, but he disproved himself because after the Goldberg match, a lot of people forget, he put himself in great danger after that match. What are you talking about, XDN? I'll tell you. Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're not. After you subscribe, hit the join button. Become a member of XDN Sports. Where's my drink? I got it right here. Boy, I tell you, I'm shaking this bottle like McMahon was shaking Rita Chatterton, Janelle Grant, Sable, Trish, Lita, Stacy Keibler. Did Vince McMahon get at Elizabeth too? You know, maybe the whole McMahon Savage beef is over Miss Elizabeth. That's another video on another day. But Bret Hart, after the Goldberg match at Starrcade 99, he continued to show up week in and week out. He continued to wrestle. And in one of the dumbest booking decisions during that great, infamous Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara, aka Oklahoma era, is when they decided to have all these brutal hardcore matches, all these never-ending gimmick matches. Ever heard of Viagra on a pole? You know, I might have to start a new series called The Worst of Vince Russo. I might have to start one. See, I'm equal opportunity. Anybody can get it. The only one who's sacred is XDN, and I win again. Now, to me, Goldberg kicking Bret Hart might have planted the seed for the ending of his career. But to me, what really put the real final touches was a match that Bret Hart had after the Goldberg kick, and it was a stupid match. Whoever booked it was dumb, and Bret Hart should have just walked out the company. And that was a hardcore match that Bret Hart had with Terry Funk. Now, I recently did a video, as I stated in the beginning, regarding Bret Hart. You people, like I said, very passionate about whenever I upload about the Hitman. I get the most passionate comments for some reason about Bret and Mark Henry. You people are very passionate about Mark Henry. I don't get that one. The world's strongest man, sexual chocolate. But I did a video not too long ago, and the video was entitled Bret Hart Receives Death Threats Over His Hulk Hogan Comments After Hogan's Passing. And one of the comments left reminded me of something that had slipped my mind. This individual's name is Van City Rollins. Hopefully he's not related to Seth Rollins or Henry Rollins or whatever. He says, the one thing I've hated the most about Bret Hart is him constantly blaming Goldberg for his early retirement and the effect that kick had at Starrcade 99 had on him long term. It never gets mentioned that Bret Hart had a hardcore match with Terry Funk months after his match with Goldberg at Starrcade. And the match with Terry Funk, not only was it a hardcore match, but it was brutal. And then he mentions a bicycle accident that Bret Hart suffered, where he hit a pole and bailed and struck the concrete with his head, resulting in a stroke. Okay, well, I knew Bret Hart had some accident and then a stroke. I didn't realize it was on a bicycle and then his head struck the concrete. I want to say that was like 2002, 2003. I want to say that was 02, 03. And he says, and because of your general fan, and because of that, your general fan blames Goldberg for his current state. So he's saying pretty much Bret Hart constantly pissing and burying Goldberg. It makes most wrestling fans just constantly hate Goldberg and blame him for Bret. But he's saying what should really be considered is the hardcore match he had with Terry Funk. Now, if you grew up in that period of time and you remember that, which you had to have been watching WCW in 2000, so what are you doing with your life? But on YouTube, I'm not sure if it's on YouTube. Maybe look up on YouTube Bret Hart versus Terry Funk 2000. But if you have the network or Peacock or whatever they put it on now, go look up. Let me see here actually, because I'm sure people will look this up. They'll be interested in this. Let me Google real quick. Make sure you hit that like button. Bret Hart versus Terry Funk 2000. Let me see. And yeah, it comes up right here. It's actually, I believe the match is on WWE's YouTube channel. Okay, it says okay, I found a Reddit post. It says Terry Funk versus Bret Hart, January 6, 2000. It says, was that the match where Terry Funk gave Bret Hart multiple concussions that ended his career? Now, someone says, call me crazy, but I'm fairly sure that the order went Bret wrestles Goldberg, Goldberg gives Bret a concussion, Bret's career continued, Bret wrestles Terry Funk, Funk gives multiple concussions to Bret Hart, and then Bret's career ended due to multiple concussions. Another person says, Bret also bounced his own head off the floor in that Goldberg match, something history seems to have largely forgotten. The next individual says, Bret sustained a concussion famously via an errant kick to the head by Goldberg at Starrcade 99. However, it wasn't identified as such at the time. Bret Hart then wrestled Terry Funk on a Thunder episode in a hardcore match and claims he got another concussion during the spot where Terry Funk pushes over the dumpster with Bret Hart in it. Bret Hart talks about, Bret Hart is always ranting and raving about he's so professional, and, he used to bash Sabu, and that might be my next video. You don't have, if you have to use weapons, you really have no talent, and Triple H can't have a good match without weapons, yet Bret Hart gets kicked in the head, and then he does a match where he's in a dumpster getting thrown while he's in the dumpster. A spot he willingly did. It says, if you watch the match, you'll see Bret Hart hits his head on the back of the lid of, I guess, the dumpster. He then had his last match ever on a Nitro against Kevin Nash in a cage match. In the post-match, Sid Vicious gave Bret a powerbomb, and Bret claimed he saw stars when he hit the mat. So that was likely a third concussion. They had time off after that ahead of the sold-out pay-per-view in 2000, and Bret was unable to shake the headaches and got checked over by a doctor who happened to be an NHL concussion specialist who diagnosed Bret and told him he wasn't even approving him to fly to the pay-per-view, never mind to wrestle on it. The next comment, yes, famously, it was Terry Funk who ended Bret Hart's career in that match, and that match alone. This person says, the Terry Funk match probably did not help. He says, I know there was a match against Kevin Nash where Sid interfered. Bret took a weak chair shot and a choke slam and a powerbomb all within about a minute of each other. The next person says, it was a kick from Goldberg at Starrcade 99, though the fact that Bret wrestled a few matches afterwards were huge contributing factors to the end of his career. This individual, he shares a lot of sentiments I've seen on my channel. He says, I love Bret Hart, but he's a whiny bitch. Also, Goldberg has apologized many times. Things happen in wrestling, especially in this era. So Bret Hart, has he been lying and exaggerating the Goldberg kick? Not that it didn't have an effect, but you wrestled numerous of times and you said you saw stars and you hit your head, and they were apparently in the Goldberg match before he got kicked. Bret had fallen on his own head due to his own doing. Apparently, according to one commenter. Do you remember this match? Go watch it and come back to this video. What are your thoughts on it? Bret the Hitman Hart. Was this the real incident that ended his career, and not so much just the Goldberg kick? Was it more than that compounded? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button. Share this video. Subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy my content, if you want to support my channel, if you want a video request, if you want to determine what I speak about next on this channel, you can donate to the Cash App and tell me what you want the video to be about. The Cash App is $XDN online. That's how most of my videos come about, are from listeners like you telling me what I should be covering. With that said, XDN wins. I'm up out of here, and that is it.